Okay, I want to welcome everybody to today's Wednesday webinar. Today, our webinar is on virtual field trips. And if you want to just click on the poll up here, the survey, have you ever participated in a virtual field trip or had your class? Just a yes or no, kind of see where we're at. Sorry, that was my timer. All right, we have 100% that have. That's great. Hopefully today, if you haven't or if you still join us, I will give you some ideas of where to find virtual field trips. If you're not familiar with them, what they are. At any time, if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat box and I will try and respond to those. What is a virtual field trip? There are different kinds. Some you can go to the Nebraska State Capitol website and take what they call a virtual field trip, and you can pan around the rotunda of the Capitol. But what I'm going to be talking about are two-way interactions with either an expert, a museum, or a zoo. And when I say two-way interactive, that means that someone is on the other end interacting, asking questions, trying to get your kids involved. These virtual field trips, I call them VFTs. So if I refer to something as a VFT, that's what that stands for, a virtual field trip. They provide kids with opportunities that they might not otherwise have. With budget cuts, you might not be able to take your kids on a bus someplace, but you could bring that into your classroom virtually. You can also spark your kids' interest in something that might not be what they want to learn about. For example, if your kids are saying, why do I have to learn about math or algebra? You know, you might find a virtual field trip where they're using that math in a career field that the kids hadn't thought about, and that might spark their interest or motivate them. And it allows you to travel around the world without a passport and virtually very low cost, some even free. I'm going to just go through a few pictures here and tell you about some virtual field trips so you kind of get an idea of what that is. This is one, it's Mrs. Kloss. She visits ESU 8 and sometimes Santa comes with her. But it's not only just getting to talk to Mrs. Kloss, the kids have to write letters prior to the actual virtual field trip to Mrs. Kloss. And so there's some writing involved in it. And then she interacts with the kids. She tries to answer their questions, talks about what they maybe had asked Santa for. So the kids really enjoy that. We are having Mrs. Santa Claus come. She will be here December 16th. And we are, I just sent out the email this morning for schools to participate, grades kindergarten through second grade. So if that's something that you're interested in, just let us know if you didn't get the email. Here's another one. This was around Earth Day. This happens to be some Neely kids that came over to my office, and they were upstairs, and we connected with, I don't remember where the gal was out of, but if you see they all have their hands up, she was asking them questions, and they were responding or wanting to respond to her questions. Anybody know who this astronaut is? If you know who it is, you can type his name in the text box, and I'll come back to that in a minute. This was a connection with NASA. NASA offers a whole slew of virtual field trips. They're all interactive and they're all free. They have a great education center. And this one happened to be this astronaut. No one's typed his name in. He's from Nebraska. It was Clayton Anderson, and this was his last virtual field trip before he retired from NASA and was moving back to Nebraska. So it was kind of special. They chose 8 schools in Nebraska to participate, and we had Clearwater Orchard junior high kids participate. They had a model at one point. They showed video from when he was exercising in zero gravity in the space shuttle. And they had a lot of questions that they would ask the kids, and the kids had questions to ask them, and it was all prepared ahead of time. And so it was very interactive. Here's another one. This happened to be a Norfolk middle school band class. So there's like 50 some students in here, and they're connected to Manhattan School of Music in New York City, and this was a presentation on jazz music. And I don't recall the jazz musician they were studying, but what I was amazed at is there was 50 some kids in here, and this little gal had their attention the whole time. You see these stands, there's instruments, nothing was being knocked over. There wasn't a lot of commotion going on. They were fully engaged the whole time, which that's the amazing part of a virtual field trip, is the person on the other end that can engage those students from thousands of miles away. This one is a NASA one also. It was one we did for some HAL students, high ability learners. But ahead of time, they had sent this worksheet. You see these kids have that. And it was on measurement, moon math or something, I believe it was called. But the kids are estimating. And then pretty soon she had them in groups measuring. Some were measuring by arm span across the length of their room. Some was measuring by body span. Some groups had rulers, some groups had yardsticks. So the kids were up and about comparing their measurements, and once again, very active. All right, this one I just did, and this one was from the Toledo Zoo, and it was about animal coverings. You see here, this was the guy that presented mostly, but he had lots of helpers. This was just a couple of them. So showing the live animals to the kids, always asking if they had questions, is how he kept them active. The thing about this one I wanted to say, and I've offered this out to teachers, if you are studying something and you would like to do a virtual field trip, but you don't know which one, where to find one, you can always email me. That's what this teacher did. It was a first grade teacher. She emailed me and said, we just are finishing up our animal unit. We would like to do a virtual field trip on animal coverings or their habitats. So I found 3 of them, sent them back. They chose the one they liked the best, and then we set it up so that they could participate in it. I am happy to do that for any school that would like me to search out a field trip for them. All right, and this one, this had been a video, and when I pulled it into Adobe Connect, the video didn't come, and that's okay. But this is an author. This is Barbara Cala de Lassa, I believe was her name. And she's actually presenting to a group of librarians here. But she read her book to us. She asked questions. We interacted with her. You see here, it was a book about a chicken. She's got a chicken hat on. There was repeated lines in the book, like there often is. She had the whole crowd repeating the lines, same way kids would. And so that was a really neat one. A lot of authors do virtual field trips. They like to connect with kids. And this is the latest one I did here in my office. Some of you might have participated. I had a group of Vietnam War veterans in, and kind of as a panel, and they connected with students. Here we have students connected in our area schools. The students had prepared questions ahead of time. Some of them had read a book called The Wall or watched the video. In our Digital Resource Center, we had a Reading Rainbow video of it. And then the veterans came and they answered their questions. And in this case, the questions were prepared ahead of time, or they typed them in a today's meet, mostly because I wanted to screen questions before. I didn't want them just asked outright. There is a sense of, what's the word I want? I don't know. They needed to ask appropriate questions. I didn't want them to ask these veterans if they had ever killed anyone, because obviously we were at war. So that's why I had the questions ahead of time for this one. All right, what I'm going to show you now, if you have a device, you can snap a picture of this right here. And I can't even think of what, this QR code. Thank you. I can't even think of what this was called. And that will take you to my website that I'm going to show you, or you can type in bit.ly VFT ABCs, just like this. And what this is a website that I have created with a couple other DL coordinators from around the state, and it's just a great resource. I'm going to show you on here where you can find different virtual field trips. There's some just from the state of Nebraska. You can also see what kind of technology is needed, or there's some troubleshooting that you might be interested in also. So I'm going to go out to that. You can go to it also if you would like, or if you just want to follow along. I'm going to share my screen here. I'll make this bigger though. Okay, you should see this. It's not as big as I would have liked it for you, but you'll be able to basically see what I'm pointing to. We have used this when we presented. That's what the today's meet and the Twitter feed was for. But a couple things we have here. There's a great article on how field trips build critical thinking skills. It's a great way to justify why you need to take time to do these, how they can help enrich and enhance your curriculum. Then each of these squares is a live connection. And I'm going to tell you about them a little bit before I go to them. This first one, the virtual field trip resources, this has a list of databases that you can search for different virtual field trips. And I'll take you there and show you that in a minute. This one is an ABC list of virtual field trips that we've created of field trips that we know our teachers have taken part in, and so we recommend them as very good virtual field trips. There's a few letters we don't have, but for the most part, we've got a great A to Z list there. Nebraska virtual field trips, anything in Nebraska for Nebraska teachers is free. Now, some of these virtual field trips do cost, and I'll show you how to find that out. But if you participate in any of the Nebraska ones, it's free to Nebraska schools. The movie samples, you can watch some videos of different virtual field trips, just some samples there. Tips for success, just that. Talks about a little how to prepare for it. Possibly, you know, the testing, and I'll talk about that in a minute. How to test your site with your content provider. And then technology requirements, some different ways that you can participate. And then presenters info, and this is actually not live anymore. We had some little videos about us, the presenters, when we use this to present with. I'm going to start up here where it says virtual field trip resources. This is a database, several databases that have listings of virtual field trips. The one that I always tell teachers to go to first, probably one of the best, most extensive databases, is the CILC, the Center for Interactive Learning and Collaboration. And I'm going to click on that and take you to it. And there's a video that shows you how to navigate through it also. But this one, and then Connect to Texas is another one that I use quite often. But we'll go here to the CILC, Center for Interactive Learning. You see I am logged in. You do not have to be logged in to search. You can search if you actually want to register for a virtual field trip. You have to then create a login. It's free. It's just a process you have to go through. So up here are the different variety of things you can find on this website. We are going to look at the content programs because that's your virtual field trips. You can also get academic classes, professional development. Collaborations is different from a virtual field trip. That would be like one class wanting to connect with another class. Say I have a 3rd grade class that's doing Christmas around the world and they would like to connect with a class in Germany. So you could go here and look, or you could put your request in and see if someone responds to you. But we're going to look here at content providers. These are your virtual field trips. Just a search box, kind of like Google search. However, they do have some tips for searching right here. So if you know you are searching for a specific grade level or area of study like science, you can be more specific in how you or what you type in that search box. For example, butterflies, 3rd grade science. So let's see here. Let's see what they have on Christmas. I'm just going to put Christmas in and search all content providers. They have 40 hits of different virtual field trips. There's also
It's 4 o'clock.
A recommendation here for rating them. It shows if they've gotten good ratings or if they have gotten the Pinnacle Award, and that's one of the highest awards in virtual field trips. It will tell you just a brief snippet of it and the grade level. You can see that there. As we look through these, I'm going to, let's look at this, Christmas Around the World. The program flyer gives you more information, tells you where it comes out of and who to contact. This one comes out of Franklin, Ohio. Tells you the grade levels. It's for grades 1 and 2. There's no maximum number of students, no minimum. Sometimes there is. And gives a description and objectives. If it ties to social studies or to standards, national ones or to a state one, they will be listed here. It's a 45-minute program. This one has specific times, means it's Christmas, it's seasonal, that you would want to participate in. And then this one has a cost. So it costs $100 to participate. The premium service, none of our schools, my schools hold that. And if you were using it a lot, it might be worth it. But when people are just getting started, it's not. Now, in the CILC website, I do hold a bank of money. So if you find something that costs on the CILC website, if you let me know, and I have my email here, I'll give you in a little bit, I will help pay for those until the money's gone. So I have a little help there. If I decide that this is one that I want to do, then, and there's a cost, see me and then I'll help you with the registration. Down here, there's a couple other things. This says video conference, H323. That is a video conference equipment like in your distance learning room or in a CART system. Now, when we talk about equipment, sometimes elementaries don't realize this equipment is in their building, but all of our high schools have distance learning equipment. Most of them have a CART and a room or multiple carts. But if that's not available, we have a couple other ways under the equipment section of this website that basically you can connect through your laptop and project it like with a projector. we have to run it through a bridge, either one of ours here in the state of Nebraska, or a lot of times the content providers have their own bridge, which is just a piece of technology that allows us to video conference with a laptop. So there's always that option if your carts, your video conferencing carts are not available, or maybe your elementary school is not located the same place as your high school. And basically they're a $15,000 unit that you're not going to just put in your vehicle and wheel across the parking lot. We have better ways to do that with just connecting through the computer. All right, so that's the CILC website. That's the first place I go. Oh, I wanted to show you one other thing up here. If I want to start with free ones, just to see what's out there, to see if I like them, I can search for free. There is no Christmas ones that are free. Let me put something else in. I'm going to put weather in and search for free ones. Okay, so here's a couple on weather that are free. And if that's the case, then I want to choose one of them. I just go to, I have to build my login, and then I request this program, and it will ask you questions about how you want to connect, if you want to call, or if you want them to make the call. When you're filling this out, feel free to give me a call and I'll help you through that process. It probably wants to know your IP number, which is like the telephone number for the video conferencing equipment in your school. I have all that. I can help you. I'm going to go back to our website, just show you quickly the list of A to Z's virtual field trips. And some of these are Nebraska ones, and I'll show you where to find those on the Nebraska site. Otherwise, they are ones that we have been to or our schools have been to, and we would recommend them. All you would have to do if you find one here, let's look at, there's a World War II museum that does an excellent one. It takes you right to it. It's virtual field trips. It's received that CILC Pinnacle Award. They're down here. They're listed. If you click on it, it's going to give you more information, and it will probably take you right to the CILC website, and then that's how you would register for it. So if there's a cost and it goes through the CILC website, I can help with that cost. Some don't cost very much at all. I sent out some this week that were from the Texas Zoo, and they were $25. I don't have money. They're not through CILC, but for $25, I had several schools that said, oh, that's not a problem. Maybe your PTA has money for you to do that if you don't have an actual budget. And they're connecting to, one's about Rudolph's cousin. It's about comparing reindeer and actually deer. And then one that was on penguins. One was on the winter tundra. There was a whole list of them, but they were just $25 a piece. And I've had several schools decide they want to participate in that. Let's go back and look at the Nebraska ones. Like I said, everything in Nebraska is free. The Henry Doyley Zoo does some excellent ones. You don't get to go everywhere in the zoo, but they have different places where they set up their equipment. I know I participated in one, and they were in front of the sloths cage or area, and it was close to noon, and the sloth was mobile. He was going down to eat, and they could zoom in and see that. They've done it in front of monkeys. They've done it, there's a lot of birds, so possibly in the rainforest we were. And it just depends on what you would like them to cover in their presentation. The Durham Museum is in Omaha. It's the old train station. They have an excellent distance learning program. If you click on it, they have a whole list of different virtual field trips and what grade levels it's appropriate for. So they're an excellent provider. The Homestead National Monument in Beatrice, they do an excellent job. Tina Miller, the contact person here, is really good about asking you what you want and tailoring her presentation to meet your needs. So if when you look at their distance learning page, you're saying, well, that's close, but I would like more information on this topic, she'll do that for you. She's great about that. They also have some rangers I know that hit science, high school level science, and they talk about prescribed burnings and the ecosystem. And so there's a real variety of what they cover at the homestead. National Archives, that's in Washington, D.C., and we used to have that as a Nebraska one because Dave Rosenbaum, the person that did it, was from Nebraska, and he loved to participate with Nebraska schools. He has left and is now back teaching in Nebraska, so they are revamping their program. I'm not really sure where they're at with that. So it's really not a Nebraska one anymore, like we used to think it was. We just finished up with the Nebraska Distance Learning Week, and we had featured some different virtual field trips here. Mrs. Santa Claus, different ESUs do their own. There was a Day of the Dead one sponsored by ESU 10 earlier. And so those are kind of listed on this page, the Nebraska field trip ones. All right, I'm going to run out of time here. I'm just going to hit technology really quick. I did kind of talk about that. If you are just using your computer, one thing about that is the webcam on the computer is very narrow scoped. And so trying to get all your kids in it sometimes can be very difficult. I have this camera right here that I do check out to schools. And it's just a USB camera. And what's nice about it is it has a pan, tilt, zoom, a wider scope. So you can set this in the front of the classroom and get all your students in a lot easier. It also has a built-in microphone, which you can mute, and that's one thing you usually want to have control of during a virtual field trip. So you have that. You can check that out from me. They're only about $200, $225. If a school doesn't have actual video conference equipment, this might be something they want to invest in to rotate through different classes as they do virtual field trips. This is a Logitech additional camera. Once again, it sits on your computer. Its scope is very limited. Here are some of the programs that allow you to do it through your computer. So most of them are free, or we have ways to do that free for you. So if you want to run it through your computer, contact me. I'll help you with that. All right. On the website, I'm going to quit sharing that. You can explore that a little bit more. Get back to my presentation here. Here is my information. If you want me to help you find a virtual field trip, if you want to have me come out and help you with the equipment beforehand or the day of your first virtual field trip, I am happy to do that. One thing that we always recommend is that when you have scheduled a virtual field trip with a content provider, you do a test call. We do that to make sure that we can connect. There's firewall issues sometimes, so we have to get through their firewall or they have to get through ours. There can also be compatibility issues, so it's always good to do a test beforehand. Sometimes we can do a test in the morning and it not work in the afternoon, unfortunately, but for the most time, if you've tested, then you're good to go the actual day of the virtual field trip. I've talked a lot and I talked very fast and I apologize. Does anyone have questions that they have about virtual field trips, or maybe something that you were hoping I would answer and I didn't? Please go ahead and fill in or type them in. I'm happy to try and answer those, or you have my email. You can always email me later with those. Okay. Oh, yep, I can repeat the website. I will just go back here, and it is bit.ly / uppercase VFT lowercase ABC. And I can even type that in for you too. Oops, I forgot the /. There you go. And then that should get you to that website. Or you can scan the QR code. Any other questions? If not, my goal this year is for every school in my ESU to participate in at least one virtual field trip. From when I started 4 years ago, I didn't even know what they were. No school had participated. It grows every year, but there are still schools out there that don't know what they are or haven't participated. So that's my goal this year, to make sure every school can participate in at least one, so they have an idea. Usually when one participates and then they share with other teachers in their school, that news spreads, and they see how valuable they are. Great enrichment or enhancements to your curriculum that you already have. Well, thank you for joining, and if there are no other questions, I will just sign off, and this is recorded. If someone else wants to listen to it, it is available or will be available probably tomorrow sometime. Great, goodbye.